I'm going to teach you part of the 80-20 blood sugar formula today. If you don't know what that is, it's how you predict stable blood sugars through any activity, meal, lifestyle choice. Really, it's how I've maintained above a 90% time in range for the last 5+ years. My A1C is at a 5.9. I know a lot of people ask about that. Today, I want to break down a piece of the exact formula that I use and give it to you. Why? Because it saved my life this morning. Not kidding, actually. It was kind of a scary experience. And so today, I'm going to break down what was a slightly traumatic event for me, give you the very real and raw emotions behind it, the choices that I made, why I made those decisions, and teach you about something exciting called the law of exchange. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Van Dyke. I'm a certified master fitness trainer and nutritionist living with type 1 diabetes. I created something called the 80-20 blood sugar formula, and I'm going to break down a single piece of that formula today. It's a very large concept, but one piece that saved me today from calling 911. Now, the reason I can't teach you the whole thing is that the 80-20 blood sugar formula as a whole has to be very personalized. It's very precise in nature, and it has to be customized and custom tailored to each individual. You know, if I told you to eat 3 grams of carbs so you could go on this walk and keep stable blood sugars, well, it doesn't exactly translate that easily across the masses, right? I don't know how your digestion responds to 3 carbs. I don't know how insulin resistant you are. I don't know your activity levels, the intensity or duration of the walk. I don't know what time of day it is for you. There's a lot of variables at play. Do you have insulin on board, right? So instead, we're going to teach this one concept, the law of exchange, because it is more generic in nature and I believe can help the most people with a single message without having to customize it to your needs. So we're going to get into today's story, break it down for you, and I hope you figure out some important lessons from this one, because I sure learned a few lessons today. Let's get into our theme song and then start the story. So, felt like I was going to die this morning. It didn't actually come to pass, thankfully, but today was absolutely a sticky situation. Oh my gosh, I just had a realization live while recording this. Holy cow, I think it is exactly 1 year ago that I literally had the exact same experience that I'm about to share with you, where I did call 911. What the heck? That's wild. Okay, sorry. We're gonna keep that in there because this is really interesting. Now, it's not tied to the time of year on the same date, but I think it actually was the same date. Wow. Anyways, let's get into our story, shall we? So I felt like I was going to die, right? And going into breakfast, things looked absolutely normal. Everything was behaving the same. And I had a little bit of a snack beforehand because it was just on the lower end. I think I was in the 90s waking up, and I like to be a little bit higher than that before I dose a large amount of insulin for a large breakfast. Because I wake up, I'm starving, right? The day before, which is yesterday for me right now, completed a very difficult workout. So my coach, who is training me for a full distance Ironman right now, which if you don't know what that is, it's a swim, bike, and run race that is 140.6 miles. It takes most people between 12 and 18 hours to complete. It's known as the single most difficult single day endurance event on planet Earth. And I'm training for one. So he's given me some really hard workouts, and that workout boosted my insulin sensitivity all of yesterday to where I didn't have to dose for a lot of food. It was kind of fun, right? Just kind of snacking throughout the day. I'm like, I feel normal. I'm not taking insulin for half the stuff. And then this morning, it kind of felt like the insulin sensitivity had worn off. So I was like, all right, we're going to get blood sugars out of the 90s, at least 120, 130, and we'll dose for breakfast at that point. That way I've got a little bit of a buffer in case it drops like it did the day before. Now, what's interesting is that my blood sugars took off, right? And I didn't have that many carbs. In fact, I had a single, what do they call them? Hadley's date. It's like 5 or 6 carbs maybe. And my blood sugars jumped, arrow up even, and showed arrow up at 140. And I was like, okay, we're dosing. We're going to take the insulin. And I thought, you know what? What a great opportunity to be bold with my insulin dose. Like a lot of us have what we call these comfort thresholds, where we get to a certain degree, a certain point of our insulin dosing, and we're like, I'm comfy to 6 units, let's say, but not 7. And so for me, I was like, I'm going to dose just a tiny bit over my comfort threshold and build this confidence in my own management, break through some fear. I dosed, got to 156, arrow up, and I was like, oh, we're still going, right? Good thing I was bold with my dose. Got to 160, leveled out, and not even 10 minutes into my dose, it started coming back down. And I thought, we're going to keep an eye on this one. Now, usually, and everyone's very different, okay? So we teach a pre-bolus formula in our programs, just like the 80-20 blood sugar formula. Another subset of this formula, part of it, is the pre-bolus formula, where we teach our clients the exact minute count for how long your pre-bolus should be. So for me, not you, it's likely different for you, but for me, my pre-bolus timing is 20 minutes. So if all is well, I usually give a pre-bolus and I wait 20 minutes until I take my first bite. So understanding that before I even got to 10 minutes, half of my pre-bolus time, blood sugars were starting to creep down. It was 160, then it was 156, and I was like, all right, no big deal, it's gonna stabilize right there. The next one was 140, and I was like, okay. So that's interesting. That was about the 10-ish minute marker. And I thought, I'm just gonna go ahead and start eating, just in case. I can always stop eating at the next update with my CGM. If it's gonna stabilize there, we'll give it a full pre-bolus time, but I'm just gonna give it a little bit of extra because I feel off. The next update was double arrows down at 119. I thought, eat everything. Eat it now. And I did a finger stick at that point, and I was already at 81. 10 minutes before I was at 160. I thought, oh no. I called my wife over to me because I was eating breakfast at home, and I said, hey, this might be a bad one. I might need some help. And she's like, okay, what do you need? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna get my glucagon out. This is where it's at. And you're like, glucagon? You're in the 80s. I remember that I was bold with my insulin. I gave a large dose of insulin, and that insulin dose likely hadn't even started impacting my blood sugars. I'm getting chills just talking about this story. Woo! As you can tell, I still have a little bit of anxiety around low blood sugars. Like, to be completely transparent with you, I freaking hate low blood sugars. Hate them more than almost anything else in life. So I often will do whatever I can to avoid them, which is why I lean heavily on blood sugar formulas. They've given me a lot of peace of mind back, where I can have certainty in my dosing. But I failed to consider my previous workout, the 24-hour rule. So there's a lot of factors that go into this. I can't go into all of them in a single episode, but long story short, this could have been predicted, and I had overlooked this. So I am plummeting at this point. The insulin that I had taken likely is like still picking up speed, right? So the full dose that I gave wasn't even at full capacity. Like, it was going to get worse, and I had already dropped 80 points and was on the edge of a hypoglycemia. I hadn't even finished breakfast yet. I'm like, oh, great, right? So I had some decisions to make, right? First one, notify somebody around me. Hey, wife, Lisa, I need to tell you something. I need you to be aware that this could be an urgent low, and if something bad happens, I need you to be ready, right? I was like, distract Brooklyn, my daughter. I was like, keep her distracted. I can't talk to her right now. I need to do some thinking. Like, I need to figure this one out because this is looking pretty bad. Shut my pump off because I was like, I don't need extra insulin right now. Clearly, something is off. And in my quick thinking, slash 80-20 blood sugar formula, we have a lot of preset rules of like, if this happens, then do this, unless that. I'm teaching that concept actually in my upcoming book that you guys will be able to grab in the near future too. So keep an eye out for that. It's in the final round of edits. I'm super pumped for it. But this rule, the law of exchange, something I teach my clients as well, is that there are certain things we can manipulate in our diabetes dosing decisions that allow us to redirect blood sugars, to rescue from a bad situation. So being double arrows down, truly, if there was a thing, triple arrows down, right? I was actually dropping at this point because the next reading was 90, double arrows down. I was dropping about 30 points every 5 minutes, and it was clearly picking up speed. So it started with 10, then 20, and then 30 points every 5 minutes. It was a sketchy situation to be in. So what did I do? What is the law of exchange? Law of exchange is looking at my meal and looking at pieces that I had dosed for, but were going to be slow digesting. So things that are going to take a long time to impact blood sugar, those aren't going to be helpful when I need something to spike blood sugars now, before this gets dangerous, right? Technically, it was already dangerous. It was heading towards a very bad situation. So I needed something that would work instantaneously. Now, my breakfast today was 2 pieces of toast, peanut butter on it. And when I say with peanut butter, I mean a hefty dose of peanut butter. I love peanut butter. It's my favorite flavor, I think, because I have peanut butter literally as often as possible, like at every meal pretty much. But I had 2 pieces of toast with peanut butter on it. I had a giant protein shake. I had a bunch of dates that I was going to eat, and my coffee with creamer. So yeah, relatively good, decent sized breakfast, right? I think it was like 100 carbs or something. And I looked at my meal and said, okay, what's going to digest slowly? The peanut butter. Peanut butter has a ton of fat and a decent chunk of protein. That's going to slow everything down. We need to swap that out, or exchange. I want you to hold on to that word for a second. Okay, the law of exchange is to exchange any variable that would positively impact my blood sugars were I to make that decision. So I swapped out one of my peanut butter toast pieces because I had already consumed one of them. As soon as I saw the 140 arrowed down, I was like, we got to eat, just eat something, right, before this goes badly. And then at the 119, I started considering the law of exchange and to what I could exchange to improve the outcomes of the situation. So I had already had the entire protein shake and a piece of toast at 119, which is dropping 20 points per 5 minutes, or double arrows down, which when I did a finger stick, I was actually 80 already. So it was clearly dropping a lot faster than that, about 30 to 40 points every 5 minutes. Whew. So at 119, I had to introduce the law of exchange. I had a decision to make, and I decided we're swapping out the remainder of my breakfast for instantaneous acting carbohydrates. There's no messing around. It's too late. We've gone past the point of no return. So breakfast is now going to be juice, right? Now I have a special mix. I don't call it anything. It's called Tailwind. It's actually an endurance athlete's fuel. So I drink it when I'm training for my Ironman events, right? And per bottle, I put in 4 scoops. It's 100 grams of carbs per bottle. I didn't know how bad this was going to go. I saw clearly that my insulin sensitivity was peaking, and I needed to redirect these blood sugars as fast as I could. So the law of exchange is that you swap out items in your meal or in your data sets that would improve the outcome of the current situation, because the situation is non-desirable. So current trend of blood sugars is I'm dropping faster than I've ever seen it drop before, and I have a large dose of insulin about to start kicking in. It's a bad situation. So 100 grams of carbs, and I started sipping on it, and every 5 minutes I would reassess to see where we were at. So at 119, I took a huge chug, about 30 carbs worth, which counted for the remainder of my meal. Exchange system complete, right? So 30 carbs for 30 carbs. Now I have fast-acting carbs instead of toast and peanut butter and fiber with all the fats and proteins and all that. So faster absorbing to get me out of that. At this point, I don't care about the toast. I love peanut butter, but that could have been the death of me, especially if I wasn't watching my blood sugars and paying attention and using this system that we have in place with blood sugar formulas. The next update was the essentially triple arrows down at 90, right? It's like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. Trying just to breathe calmly, because I'm like, if I freak out and have a panic attack, my increased heart rate is just going to circulate the insulin that was given faster, and that's going to make things worse. So just chill out, Matt. So a lot of thoughts going through my head, but had more. So at this point, I had 50 grams of carbs. So I had half of the water bottle, and you're like, 50 carbs? That's a lot. Remember, I had already dosed for those carbs. I exchanged them for my actual breakfast. So instead of eating breakfast, I had juice for breakfast. Do you see how this is the law of exchange? So this gives us a predetermined set of rules to abide by so that we know what to do. There's certainty behind our decisions. Now the issue, this is the one flaw with blood sugar formulas. Me, humans, emotions, fears, anxiety, panic attacks. I let emotions get in the way. So I knew, stop there. I only need 50, right? I kept going. I ended up having 20 carbs more to a total of 70 grams of carbs, so almost a full water bottle, which was 100 grams of carbs. The next reading, and the reason I let it get emotional, was double arrows down at 68. And I was like, it looks like it's slowing down, but this is freaking me out a little bit, right? Because I looked at my pump and I still had a lot of insulin on board, a lot. So all things considered, the way that I acted, reasonable, right? The situation was truly dangerous, and had I not acted immediately, I would have been in a world of hurt. I probably would have been unconscious, and my wife would have had to call 911, right? Because I also didn't wait my full pre-bolus. Had I not recognized that trend early, where that next reading was, 20 points lower than it should have been. That's interesting, right? Understanding how to interpret the data is our first step, but then having a proven system that allows us to have steps to take, to know what to do to treat these things, is really how you will master your diabetes. In fact, this is like the whole premise of the 80-20 blood sugar formula, which I know you've heard me talk about a few times at this point. I talk about it a lot because even before today, it saved my life and it gave me my quality of life back. Right? And if you are unfamiliar with blood sugar formulas, unfamiliar with my work, my decade of research and all that's gone into experimenting with blood sugars, me playing the role of mad scientist essentially with myself, then you got to go check out our training on blood sugar formulas. You can go check it out. It's totally free. Go check it out, learn about blood sugar formulas, see how they might work for you. You can go to diabetesinaction.com. That's going to be the best resource for getting you started moving towards more stable blood sugars, more predictable blood sugars, and having an escape route when things don't go according to plan. Like for me, it was an urgent low, but it would have been a lot more urgent had I not had a blood sugar formula to come in and save the day, right? So the story that I so valiantly made my way through it, I was a nervous wreck. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was trying my hardest to keep my cool in front of my wife, but even she was like, all right, Matt, sugar is going to work. She even told me, do you think you need the extra sugar? I think you had enough. I was like, don't tell me what to do. She was right, actually. She was like, trust the formula. She was like, you know your stuff, Matt, just do it. And I'm like, I don't know, I need more. Man, I overtreated. What a rookie mistake, right? But I had the extra, and blood sugars did cooperate. They did balance out. Came back into the 80s, low 100s, and then that extra emotional swig of my sugar water that I had, the 20 grams, really just kicked into high gear and just skyrocketed. It's like, gosh dang it, she was right. My blood sugar formula was right. Trust the formula, Matt. And I did skyrocket. Ended up hitting 266. It was like, oof. Well, sugar works. Like I said in the previous episode, I can survive anything. It might not look pretty, but I can survive, right? But this lesson I wanted to share with you because a lot of people think, oh, I'll just finish my breakfast, when there is such a better way to do things. And this is how I view blood sugar formulas as well. With the standard medical advice that we get, people are like, oh, I just listened to what my doctor's been telling me for the last 5, 10, 50 years, whatever the amount of time is for you with type 1 diabetes. And that could not be further from the truth. There are new strategies these days. There are updated methods for managing diabetes at such a precise level that, admittedly, most of the time, I forget about it. I live my life, right, while maintaining controlled blood sugars. I get to do what I want. Now, today is an interesting example because I dropped the ball, and it's not on blood sugar formulas. That is on me. I missed a variable that I should have been more attuned to. But if getting your blood sugars dialed in is possible, why would you not want to take advantage of that when all that it might require of you is a little extra awareness and a little extra study to figure out what makes blood sugars go up and down and what options you have for your diabetes tool belt, right? And that's what getting your blood sugar formulas built out is. Like when I work with clients personally, all we're doing is looking at their diabetes and seeing how it differs from what they've been taught and then setting up the right inputs for their blood sugar formulas. So the 80-20 blood sugar formula simplified is ultimately getting a decision-making process in place that allows you to know exactly what to do to keep your blood sugar stable through any meal, activity, lifestyle, getting a full night's sleep, right? Parenting, running a business, training for an Ironman, even just going to walk your dogs. All these things benefit when you have a blood sugar formula in place. So to recap, the law of exchange, as simple as it sounds, can be life-changing, and in my case for this morning, life-saving. Had I finished my toast, everything would have been delayed because fat slows down the absorption of foods, slows down digestion, and it could have been the decision that ruined not only my day, but my wife's day, and might have landed me in the hospital. Who knows how bad it could have gone. So recognizing the power of redirecting and adapting to the situation at hand, and it's in your hands ultimately, where if you recognize that something isn't working, it's time that you make a decision to change things, right? If nothing changes, then nothing changes. If you continue following the strategies that have gotten you to the position that you're in today, you're going to continue achieving the same result, especially if it's undesirable. I want you to understand that all you have to do is change one thing and the entire outcome can change, whether it's blood sugars or your life as a whole. And this is one of the big things that we focus on in our programs, is this transformation of like, what are the few couple of things that we can just tweak? Little subtle changes that have massive outcomes that allow you to live your best life with type 1 diabetes. Or in some cases, like mine today, how to just continue with life and not be taken out by an urgent hypoglycemia. Now, the reason that happened, delayed onset of peak insulin sensitivity, it hit me like a brick wall. The insulin that I dosed worked instantaneously, and it spooked me, not gonna lie. Lunchtime, I was like, do I want to give insulin? It's like, come on, Matt, you gotta be bold. Go for it. I ate lunch, been 100% time in range since then. But the law of exchange could very well be the thing that saves you. And even if it doesn't, it could be the thing that keeps you in range and allows you to continue on with your day, having some fun and not worrying too much about blood sugars, right? And alternatively, on the opposite side of this, that saved me from a low. If you're spiking and you look at your plate and you're like, all I have left is a cup of rice that I'm supposed to eat, well, rice might spike your blood sugars worse. So what if you exchanged it for a slower carb? Some salads, quinoa, right? Maybe some proteins, fats, fibers, things that are slower digesting that aren't going to cause the spike to get worse. There's always something you can do, always something you can change, always a way that you can adapt to force blood sugars to work, to manipulate the outcomes. And that is the beginning of what blood sugar formulas can offer. So, hope you found that one interesting. It was not a fun experience for me. I hated every second of it, but at the end of it, I took it as a learning experience. Not that I can't give insulin or that insulin is scary, just that I needed to be more aware and more prepared for these things, and grateful that I do have blood sugar formulas to lean on, because there were times in my life previously where outcomes were not as promising, and I've lost consciousness from lows before that spooked me quite a bit, I would say. So if you're someone that hates lows as much as I do, or you love the idea of freedom and flexibility with blood sugar management, so you can go have pizza or pasta or go to that party or travel the world, or who knows, maybe you're also an athlete trying to keep blood sugar stable with standard workouts or just going for a walk down the street. Guarantee you, blood sugar formulas are your answer. So that's why we have that training, so you can go check it out and get a bit more info on how blood sugar formulas might relate to you and how you can set them up for yourself. And then, of course, if you want help with it, we do occasionally open up applications to work with me directly in getting it set up for you. Now, if that's something that you want to check out, like I said, go to diabetesinaction.com. The training is free. Apply it to your life. Start making progress. And again, if you're looking for some additional help with that, some customization, more personal touch, we occasionally do open up applications to work with me on the specifics of the 80-20 blood sugar formula. But get started at diabetesinaction.com. Use the law of exchange to better your outcomes with diabetes. I hope this one helped. Let me know if it did. And if you found it helpful, help us out. Share the word. Get this out to people who need to hear it. You just might be the reason that they have the tools they need to survive another day with type 1 diabetes. Have a great rest of your day. Use this information and keep up the fight.